Hi, I'm Eitan Rubinstein with Live from M5. Today we will be talking with Mr. Hewson about what it is to revive the legacy of the EST program. So how are you doing today, Mr. Hewson?
I'm good. I'm really happy to be here. I think that this is all so very cool.
So before we get started with the questions that I have, I just want to ask what happened with your nose?
This one. So, I'm at home at my shop at the house, and I've got my material rack up against a wall, and I've got it separated by its kind, square stock, round, or whatever it is. And but within that kind of material, I've got different dimensions. So I'll get to the point. So what I wanted was behind material that was in the front. So, long story short, I'm up there and I'm getting from behind the material all the while I'm kind of moving it forward. And I'm on a step ladder, which also sort of compounds the danger here. And so I finally find what I want, and it's odd because I take it out and I move it, I lean it. Maybe I clipped it or something. I'm moving kind of fast, and I lean it up against, and I turn around, and before I know it, the front one had tipped off and just came down on my nose. So I'm kind of up on my toes looking like this, but I'm comfortable. But then when I'm back on my heels, man, maybe I might have even taken a step down from the thing, but it just rolled off and got me right in the nose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it's a little bit embarrassing because I probably should have known better than to stack this stuff behind But yeah, it happened. Kind of learned a lesson there for sure. Yeah. And I'm so it wasn't really that painful actually, and I can't feel it at all right now.
That's crazy.
But it was it felt like something had happened. It was obvious that I had done something.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, I'm just so vain. I couldn't look. I didn't want to look in the mirror. Or with your phone or whatever.
Yeah. So
I just walked over to the house. I'm pretty upset about it. And I go and I ask Laurel, my wife, I'm like, Laurel, I think I've done something here. Can you check it out? And so I show her, and she's a nurse, and her reaction kind of freaked me out more than the event itself, because she looked at me and she's like, we got to go to the hospital. Because I didn't know that this was something that constituted an emergency room visit. I know that might sound weird, but it really wasn't that painful, and it wasn't bleeding a lot.
Do you think it was the painkillers or something, your body's natural painkillers, or just the shock, or what?
Oh, I mean, maybe it was a little bit of, both of those things. It was shocking.
Yeah.
I just don't know if we have, there was bone pain, but the cut or whatever, maybe there's not a lot of nerve endings up there. I don't know. I'm not.
Maybe.
I don't know things like that. But anyways, I'm sorry, long story short, or long story short, I've already said that twice, but the cartilage separated from the bone, and you can see there, I have stitches here, so the skin came down, and I guess what she saw was no, we got to go because it's called approximation. So if there's a cut and it's close together, and it's not on your face, by the way, it's probably going to heal fine. Maybe you'll have a scar or whatever, but this was gaping, and she's like, I can see your sinuses. So and her reaction would kind of freak me out. So I was like, all right, let's go. Anyways, thank you for asking. I'm sorry about my appearance, but
you're fine.
Got to live with it.
It's okay. To everyone watching at home, he's okay.
Yeah. I'm fine.
All right. So now moving on with the regular questions. So I want to ask, how many years have you been teaching here at Rocklin High School?
So this year will be my third year as the EST teacher, and my fourth year here at Rocklin in total. The first year I was a long-term sub for digital art, which I liked a lot, and that was the first part of that year. And the second part was great because the admin here, they took a chance on me. It was so cool. I was the long-term sub for EST, but with a curriculum that was here from the previous teacher.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that was it. That was and this is my first teaching job, period. Before this, I worked in industry. So, it was for me an ideal situation, really, because I could come in and learn how to be in the classroom, how to be in front of you all, without the weight of, or without the perceived weight of being the teacher of record, or whatever the term is, because I was still the sub. They were like making sure that I could handle the job, and it was just a great way to be here. So 4 in total, 3 as the actual teacher.
All right. I had no idea that you taught a year before you started doing EST.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. So you took over for Mr. Frank, right? Yeah, Mr. Frank.
Yeah, Mr. Frank, and I've met him twice, and he was the one who put together the shop and was able to, acquire the equipment and organize that space, which is just a monumental task. It's really incredible when you think about what goes into just doing, that, regardless of where you are, but here at a high school, because there's regulations and there's certain paths you need to follow, and not to mention that space wasn't originally designed to be what it is now. It's got a false floor, which is a very particular and cool thing for a certain kind of use, but a lot of design and engineering, and then all the infrastructure stuff that needed to happen just to have those big CNC machines in that space is pretty cool. Super cool, actually. So yeah, that was Mr. Frank. I took over for Mr. Frank.
All right.
And he's now, I think, at Davis. I'm not exactly sure what he's doing. Yeah,
that's cool. So this year's yearbook theme is about like reviving the legacy of what Rocklin High School was kind of before COVID.
Sure.
So like obviously taking over a new program is like kind of like it was going one way, and I know definitely this year you've kind of like tried to shift it to go like in a direction that's better. So how would you like describe how that's going, like that process of making EST what EST needs to be?
Yeah, what a great question. And this is, I think that actually this question is applicable regardless of event. So the way that you posed it started with like, COVID, that point in our history being like a paradigm shift, or something that Rocklin High School, in one way or another was forced to press the reset button.
Yeah.
And I know I haven't been a teacher long, but what I'm starting to realize is that's a good question all the time.
Yeah.
I think that especially in a program like this one, EST, Engineering Support Technology, if you're not constantly changing and updating, and because we follow industry, what I need to do for this program is make sure that it reflects what's happening in this industry outside of high school, so that the students who are a part of this program have, a skill set that they can demonstrate if they're trying to go and get a job right after high school, and or have an idea of where within this industry they want to go. Because as you know, and I hope it's okay to mention here, not only are you a part of the this program, but you're also a part of EST. So you know that over there we weld, and we do metal fabrication, and we are learning the CNC machine, which we're just the mills, and we're manually machining. So there's a lot of different aspects to this program for sure.
Yeah.
And at other high schools, there's the welding and the metal fab, or the product design and development programs are not as closely linked. In some other high schools, the welding part of it is part of like an ag program. usually.
Yeah.
So to have it all under one roof, I think is simultaneously, and again, I hope this is okay, and it has to do with like me learning how to be a teacher as well. How do you manage all these different things? But I think it's really great for those who participate in this program because they get an opportunity to try all of these different things. And invariably, as maybe you can attest, like a student will discover what they like most and start to move in that direction.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm kind of straying off your original question. The way that I want to answer that, like how am I reviving the program? I mean, if you're not constantly, revive isn't the right word, but making, you're making revisions, you're circling back, you're testing to see if this worked, you're checking against what's actually going on in industry, then I don't know if the program is actually doing what one of these programs is supposed to be doing for the students, because it's all changing. It's constantly changing. And for a program like ours, the future is really strange because especially with those CNC machines, I think that the job of an operator, which is the bottom level of the trajectory here, might not go away. There's a big demand in industry right now for operators. You know, this is the person that's at the machine running parts. But really, their job is to, they're taking the blank, they're putting it in the machine, and they're pushing run. Yeah. You know, the programming has already been done by the engineer or shop manager. The design has been done by the designer or the engineer. So by the time it gets to the actual operator, a lot has already been figured out. In fact, the majority of what goes into producing a part has already been done. And again, I got to watch my words because I want to say something like I feel like it's disingenuous for companies right now to say like, we need a lot of people. It's true they need people now, but in the future, this job, the job of an operator, I think is going to start to move towards a robotic arm. Yeah. After all. So I've got to be conscious of that and like what's an important next step there and what do we need to get in terms of machinery and like how do we really reproduce what's happening in the world in this shop so that we can continue to like make sure that we're presenting reality really. Yeah. So gosh, what a long answer for a good question, but really what I want to say, and I think the ultimate takeaway for me as a teacher, and I hope that I can maintain this mindset, is like it's a constant change, constantly like, is this still relevant? And more than that, it's just my teaching style. I mean, man, I at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, probably like that wasn't as successful as it could have been. What do I need to do to change this assignment to make it better, more relevant, more engaging for you guys? Yeah. That's the other thing that and I know this isn't the question that you're asking me, but what I'm mostly concerned with is just like, how are we going to either access the creativity that we all have inside us and or learn how to practice in a way that builds creativity, something like that, because I just feel like the future that's what is really going to be valued.
The creativity.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. 100%. There's no, I mean, I would love for there to be like an industry representative here to triangulate this idea off of, because the way technology is going is such that these jobs in front of the machine are not going to be the same as in the future as they are now. And what's really going to be valued and therefore looked for in a potential employee is like, can they, come up with a more efficient solution for programming this part? are creative in a way that's going to save us time, which is going to be money. How are we going to be able to get this part back to our customer in a shorter amount of time, all that kind of stuff. It's that's what they're gonna be looking for.
Because I mean, at least I think like AI, it's really good at like producing stuff that looks creative, but I think it's just like stealing from what already exists. I don't really think like robotics or technology are ever gonna like come up with their own ideas, which is why in the industry, as you said, like creativity and being able to problem solve is like never going to be replaced because it can't be replaced.
Yeah, no, right. I think that like, there's the way that creativity manifests for each one of us is different, but there is, if your output is something artistic, then that's an easy thing for an observer to be like, wow, you're so creative because look at what you've been able to produce. Like this is amazing. Because it's right there in front of your face. It's visual or whatever. But creativity can also manifest in the form of like a very specific prompt into an AI system that allows for a more efficient way of producing the part or something. So that's really what I mean. Like, how is it that you're thinking about this? This term that we use it's in our lexicon. I think it gets overused is, let's think outside the box. Let's think outside the box. And even though I do feel as though that gets overused and therefore loses some of its weight, it is in fact true. Like, the employers of the future are going to value the people who can come up with solutions that are not necessarily the ones on the surface, like the ones that are going to be render the most efficient outcome might actually come from some sideways angle. I know that is a complicated way of saying that, but I think that like a prompt engineer in the future is going to probably be the most creative person on the team.
Yeah.
Because that person in conjunction with an engineer, in conjunction with a designer, like those three people are going to be the ones that are really doing everything. Because outside of that bit of work, I feel at some point it might not be 5 years, probably not. Maybe within the next 10, certainly within the next. I mean, what is this? There's, I forget what it's called. It'll come to me perhaps, but the way that technology is turning over on itself is exponential. Like, so what's going to be available to us as a creative species in the next 15 years? I don't know that we can know right now. So to keep pace with that is going to be super important for and this is your generation. I mean, in 15 years, I don't know that I'm already kind of losing it. So I don't know where I'll be, but with regard to this subject matter, but man, is it interesting. And it's a really cool thing to think about. And, I don't know if I'm able to articulate this in class, but that's really where I think the value is just, again, maybe something that's oversaid, but learning how to think, creative problem solving, all this stuff that we hear all the time, but it's so true.
Yeah. Like using the engineering design cycle, or like I remember last year we had one assignment like that. And do you feel like you want to have like more than one assignment in the future and like kind of shift your curriculum to like, I don't know how to say this, to like elevate that and like give like, I don't know how you would do it, but like extra credit or something like to people that do that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I feel my real position on that is I feel like the greatest value for you all would be to really understand how powerful that engineering design cycle is as a system for thinking and solving problems, for sure. I don't know that I would be doing you guys a disservice if that's all we did. Yeah. I mean, it's that important. I think it's always been that important, but as we move into the future, I think it takes on a whole new weight. But now there's another side of this too, which is like I've got to figure out a way for you all to stay engaged. I mean, who wants to just do engineering design cycle problems the whole time? I mean, it might be me, but I've now lived a life that has allowed me to understand why that is so important. So in conjunction with that, now we've also got to have some fun. You know, we've got to produce things. We've got to learn. We've got to, you know, touch all these different tools, which is to say, like, move through the processes, see which one we like. Do I like welding better? What kind of welding do I like better? In what you know, what kind of welding do I want to do? You know, I've figured out my process. I like TIG welding is actually great. Do I want to work on bikes, or do I want to work at you know, on those big tanks at the breweries or whatever? Yeah. Or am I more into like structural stuff? Do I want to learn how to stick weld or MIG weld and go and build bridges and you know, big steel construction in the city, something like that? Yeah. Or do I want to, am I more on the design side of things? This is actually kind of where I live more than anywhere else, is on the design side of things, and you know, go and engage the cycle and produce something, and then discover, you know, what works and what doesn't, solve for what doesn't, improve with what already works, and all that kind of stuff. And maybe that just comes with experience and, you know, a lifetime of doing this kind of stuff.